evening, and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course, I'm sitting down with my co-hostess with the mostest, Techie Joe. How are you, darling?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you this evening?
Evil.
Evil. What has you evil?
You know, I always like being evil. It gets us through the day.
Well, it is something to do.
Yes.
Right.
Well, apparently, some people have been very busy unlocking clairvoyancy and telepathia.
Yes, and neuroscience news wants us to know that brain stimulation unlocks our telepathy and clairvoyance powers. So researchers proposed a groundbreaking model in the study of a psychic phenomenon, suggesting the human brain functions as a psychic inhibitory filter. They used repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation to temporarily inhibit the left medial middle frontal region, say that 5 times fast, in healthy individuals observing significant psychic effects as a result. The study reveals that individuals with neurological or RTMS-induced frontal lesions show enhanced mind-matter interaction abilities. This research offers a new perspective on how the brain might suppress innate psychic abilities, potentially revolutionizing our understanding of these elusive phenomena. So this one goes on. There's a lot more to it, but yeah.
Yeah. But, it's interesting. They're finally catching up, although I'm not really happy about this. Well, and it's interesting they're using magnetic stimulation. This is not shock treatment.
Yeah. We're not shocking people. But we are at least introducing temporarily like a form of brain damage.
Right.
Because what they're talking about are, outside of their testing and what they're doing with magnets.
Right.
This would typically be a form of brain damage.
Right.
The lesions in this area of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to get at like that. That seems like a very specific one. It's a very specific area of the brain,
right.
but which we know. So the left medial middle frontal
region,
basically right here.
Right where?
Like just deeper.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, which is where like a lot of my headaches occur at, which is a lot of psychics. If you see them, especially if they're overworking, i.e. doing more than they should be doing at their level, they will get a headache, and it'll normally start in the temple and work its way up. Yeah.
Understandable, but so if we're talking about lesions in that area of the brain,
mm-hmm.
that would suggest a really potentially hard impact.
Correct.
Like to be that deep.
Well,
or a difference in the development of that area of the brain.
Right. A blood flow difference, a physical difference. What is his name? Dr. something another. We've talked about his new book where he scans the psychic brains. And this is a study out of that study where he actually found that most psychics and mediums, their brains go down to low activity when they're reading.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like certain parts that light up that are normally associated with like deep thought or
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not about thinking your way through a puzzle.
Right.
It's just receiving.
Right.
It's just kind of like listening to music or listening to an audiobook, watching TV.
Actually going to sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
So what they're suggesting, though, is this has a lot to do with the brain is wired to inhibit the ability.
Mm-hmm.
So that would typically suggest that we adapted over time to the world by inhibiting the functionality.
Right.
That starts getting
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Most of the things that we adapt to as as we evolve, as
Mm-hmm.
everything evolves, it's usually to protect us, benefit us, improve us, like, the strong survive, that kind of mentality.
Right.
So it's interesting to see that if I'm understanding this right, and I could be totally wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but if we over time evolved
Mm-hmm.
to turn this off,
Mm-hmm.
what's the benefit? What's the advantage? What's the reason that you would want to inhibit this versus not developing an adaptation? I mean, like to take for instance, like if ducks quit having webbed feet,
Mm-hmm.
they would become poor swimmers.
Right.
Whereas their webbed feet are very helpful in helping them move nice and gracefully through the water. So you would expect that adaptation, that maybe at some point in the duck's history,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have feet, they didn't have webbed feet. Over time, those feet became more and more webbed, and wider and whatever,
Right.
to help them swim better.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a logical sense. But when you start, if you went the other direction with it,
Mm-hmm.
and like you see ducks that now have less webbed feet, they're less efficient swimmers,
Right.
you start to question, okay, what's that about?
Well, I think that it would probably be because we needed to, or a human system needed to not have the premonition, the telepathia. This could occur because they needed brain power elsewhere. It could also occur from like a nutrition basis.
Okay, so maybe as we moved sort of from magic to science. In a sense,
In a
that, like,
sense.
as we were moving from like old wives' tales and
Mm-hmm.
just this kind of innate knowledge kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, to actually demonstrating and then using math and science,
Right.
and basically shifting the focus in our brain.
Right. And we stopped needing the precognition. It's like our brains no longer need that section of the brain.
Like, why would you need to be able to have precognition when you can
Mm-hmm.
sit here and mathematically, formulaically
Right.
show the same thing?
Well, not only that, but there's many things our brains no longer do.
Okay.
Okay, our brains now are tuned to an 8-hour sleep cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Stop that. Sorry, she's biting me again. Um, when, if we look at our ancestors, many of them slept 2 to 4 hours. So different when our brain's kind of like a computer, and if it isn't using a graphics card, it's not going to power that graphics card.
Well, more to the point if you look at it in the computer analogy, it's sort of, some things are going to fall to the wayside, like a floppy drive.
Right.
But it's like we're not, like, who uses a floppy drive anymore?
Right.
Except for, like, I think Boeing. Or no, not technically Boeing, but I think like United Airlines or something, to update their software. But the point being, like, for the vast majority of the world, the floppy drive, like, cool, you have one, but what are you using it for?
Yeah.
Like, what are you using it for?
Right.
Whereas, adding, optical storage, adding an internet connection, adding a faster internet connection, adding an even faster internet connection is where we are now. And the floppy drive is just kind of like, who uses that for what?
Right. And who actually, frontal lobe, perineal lobe, and the brain would just stop powering it. There's like, we don't use the full extent of our brain. Sorry, we just don't. We haven't, and probably in centuries, as our development has gone on.
Mhm.
And we're seeing even less use of our brain as we've progressed through into technology.
Oh, so then that becomes a bigger question of, do you think that it has more to do with inhibiting it because, like, evolutional, like in an evolutionary sense, we're not using it?
Right.
Not just we're developing this for any good reason. We
Right.
just aren't developing this because we're
Yeah.
not using it, and then generation to generation to generation.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So Brenda says, would that be near the pineal gland that many of the old books said contributed to the psychic function?
It would be near the pineal gland. It would be probably like I was looking for a schematic of the brain
Mm-hmm.
to figure out where they're doing this at.
Because I thought the pineal gland was more midbrain.
It is. It's directly midbrain. It's actually in the gateway.
So not quite the pineal gland.
Right.
So yeah. And then Brenda also says years of being taught it wasn't real, was evil, and people not using it didn't help.
Right.
Well, but then that gets into, like, which came first?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, in terms of if we as a society see these things as bad, then of course, as a parent, you want to discourage, like, your child from exhibiting this bad thing because there's bad consequences. So you're gonna, like, regardless of what you personally think, you're gonna withhold the societal norm for the safety of your child.
Right.
And then that's going to be kind of a snowball effect.
Right. And not only that, then the body, if you're not using it, and then the body is going to recept to that, because I've always said it's a muscle.
Well, right, and effectively at this point, what you're also calling it is more of a vestigial structure.
Right.
Like, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not really in use.
Right.
Like, and there's kind of like several vestigial structures in the human body.
Yeah.
That, like, we have it, we don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, evolutionarily, we've kind of favored non-use of it. Like, we kind of moved out of that being helpful.
On average, humans 1,000 years ago was able to walk miles per day.
Mm-hmm.
Most humans can't even do a mile in a day.
Well, but there's not really a need to.
Exactly.
Like, we're not socialized to walk miles a day. We're not, like, our world is no longer set up in most cases. Well, at least in the U.S. But then you move to, like, European countries that are still heavily pedestrian.
Right.
And, like, you put your average American there, and it's like, Jesus, with all the walking.
Right.
Like, where's the cars? Where's the taxis? Get me out of here.
Right.
Like, I'm like, what the hell?
All right. So, helps with reading. Pay attention to what this section of the brain helps with. And then, on your own personal identification, count how many readers has a problem with this. Helps with reading and understanding text, may also involve processing unpleasant outcomes in decision-making tasks.
Oh.
How many psychics and mediums do you know in our little circle that you've been introduced that are dyslexic, ADHD?
Yeah. Well, but then it's like, how many people do I know that have that specific problem combo?
Right.
That is kind of hallmarked as, like, your ADHD, typically your ADHD subset,
right?
Which can be volatility in seeing negative outcomes, and kind of this impulsivity that everything's going to work out and everything's going to be great, or not even really engaging that to see what a potential outcome might be. as well as like processing, like reading and processing instruction and processing things like that. Yeah, no, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
And if we were mostly, generally, at least at this phase, talking to people with ADHD or ADD, it's now all one thing. It's kind of cool.
Right.
But talking to people that are ADHD, in terms of, this is a neurodivergency. And if you're like inside the brain, if you're now neurotypical, is to use this to, do one thing.
Right.
It's not that you quit using it, it's just you shifted it.
Right.
And it's like, we're not receiving the mothership universe message to go do this, or the impulse or whatever that we generally describe ADHD with. And instead, we're using it to think our way through it before we do it and go, maybe not.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't. This could go bad. So it does become generally in humans an inhibitory thing.
Right.
That maybe, 1,000 years ago,
right,
it would have been like, well, I don't know, kids are kids.
Right.
Like, they got a crazy spontaneous idea to go do something and it worked out for them. They didn't die.
Right.
They learned things. And, but ask me why, I don't know.
Right.
And it would kind of have that same interaction. So, yeah.
Yeah. But I find that interesting that the sector of the brain that they're finding the most PSI, which is, it's not PSI, what is it? Anyway, the most psychic connection is the same sector that controls reading, language preferences, and also control of emotions and focus. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, which then actually, I think you would almost have to do a double study.
Right.
And like see how much, like, what happens. This would be really wild. What happens if you take people that are already diagnosed neurodivergent, ADHD specifically, and you do the same thing? Right. And how much of this would potentially also influence future, if you wanted to, future medical study or therapies that would also assist or be an option for someone who's neurodivergent to cope or to manage their symptoms in a way that keeps them advantageously involved.
Right.
Because not everyone who's neurodivergent necessarily needs to go grab a tarot deck and start doing readings. But a lot of people that are neurodivergent really do suffer through like daily life and trying to live in a neurotypical world that keeps telling them to sit down, shut up, and pay attention.
Right.
Because it's like, hi, scream for me to do all the things I can't do.
Right.
Like,
interesting. Like, this is going through a lot. Sorry, I pulled actually the full damn study up.
Okay.
Yeah, like, Brenda, we're in the right area, but this is actually a Venus of that area.
Okay.
Because,
like right neighborhood, but a few houses down.
Yeah, because there's a venal corridor that connects to the area that they're stimulating.
Oh.
So, very interesting. This is probably the third study we've gotten this year. I think probably within about 10 years, we'll be able to do an EEG and go, yep, you're certified psychic.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
But do you worry about the potential for abuse of it, though? like, do you think that some people would choose to routinely go through this transcranial electromagnetics just to enhance abilities?
I think that it's probably naturally happening because we have areas within the planet that is higher electromagnetic fields. I think that we have seen repeatedly and not understood like why most psychics move to Sedona, while there's a lot of psychics in Appalachia, while there's a large gambit of psychics that have moved to northern New York, while there's a large gambit of psychics that live in a Pacific area in England. I think that we naturally move to those areas to create this effect.
Or drawn to them because we feel most comfortable there.
Right.
Or they feel most comfortable.
Correct.
I should say. I don't know that applies to me. So, but it is kind of like you may live in an area your entire life and like, you know, not have abilities, whatever. And then you visit a place and you're like, I want to live here. I feel great.
Exactly.
I feel wonderful. This is exactly where I need to be.
Right.
And it has everything to do with, so to speak, the harmonics of electromagnetics and everything else that are, you know, inducing the right balance for your brain.
Right. And, you know, certain things that people have an aversion to.
I don't know. I think if it went the other way, like for me, I feel like if I suddenly like abandon reason and the ability to just read and pre-think an outcome and multiple outcomes and all that, I think I'd run away.
It can be very scary.
Yeah, I would think my first impulse would be like, get me out of here. Like, I don't care. Get me out. Because I would feel very awkward.
Right.
But I was born in Appalachia. Like I'm in, so to speak, native son. I don't necessarily see that.
Right.
But I have sometimes thought I did better when I wasn't here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of been that impulse to like, you know, if I could go other places.
You know, but no, that would be probably a thing to look at. And I think that's something that the study needs to go to. Well, it'll have to be a social study instead of a neurological study. Is looking at
anthropological.
Right. Where are the psychics? Why are they there?
Like, what's the commonalities? Like, let's dig into it based on this.
Right. And, you know, one of my really great friends was very close to her for a while until her spirit guide decided that she needed to move to Florida. She took off and moved to Florida.
Okay. Was that kind of a, you're done? Like, this is your retirement package?
Yeah, this was her retirement package. Like, she retired from the industry. She no longer does readings. But the God's like, you've got till June 31st to get a house. I don't care if you sell this one or not. You got to get out of here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wonder if that was the like, you maxed out.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to start hurting you real bad.
Well, and, you know, that also ties in, like, I would love to sit down with the scientists. And and I've wrote to a few of them and had some real discussions about things that I see within the psychic world that they don't, because they're looking at one study, one focus. They're not looking at everything contained.
Well, yeah, there is kind of a, I think we keep looking for a single magic bullet.
Right.
And that maybe it's a constellation.
Right.
That, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And all that comes together.
Right.
Whereas just trying to go this right here, this one little place, this tiny little fragment of the brain, is all it takes. And that's the total answer. It does everything. And it's like, I don't think our brains are that simple.
Right. But
like, that seems...
Well, and because every brain, every heart is basically the same.
Yeah.
They've basically got the same 5 chambers. They've basically got all the same veinage. The human brain is not. So if this is and it has been long standing within the industry that this is family DNA based. If this adaptation of filtration only occurs in this DNA structure, might be interesting to look into, and then look into where they naturally go.
Yeah. Well, and it may actually, I wonder if, because if you get into that, like what was happening prior to, because there's a period in our history where we suddenly opened up the ability to travel.
Right.
And we started seeing massive immigrations.
Right.
And shifts in like population moving around the world.
Right.
It makes you wonder how much of that was influenced and how much of that was just kind of like exploratory or like leaving a horrible situation.
Right.
And how much of it was like a calling.
Right.
Like, and this is where you need to be.
Right. And see, that signal, I wonder if that's when we stop migrating.
Just get interesting. And if it's even the same part of the brain that kicks that off, and that's where I'm kind of going with it could very well be part of a constellation.
Right.
That you need this plus that plus this other piece to all kind of, do their part.
Right. And, and it's like the brain scans coming out are amazing, looking at standard conversation to mediumship conversation to psychic reading conversation to just psychic reading to channeling. Like for years I've said, I am a medium. Yes, I can sometimes get the dead to talk to me, but I'm not a medium. And it's because it's a whole different area of the brain that stimulates or destimulates when medium conversations are going on. There's a whole nother area of the brain that does psychic conversations. There's a whole nother area of the brain that does telepathic conversations or empathy. You hear people say you're an empath. Looking at it from a neurological standpoint, you're a telepath.
Well, and I think because we've also had a massive shift over like the last, 50 years of brain scans. Like the resolution
has
gotten so much better.
Yes.
Like the things they couldn't have found like 40 years ago.
Yes.
Because like it's a magnetic image of the brain, but it's oh god.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the problem area has to be so big.
Right.
Before it like dings on a scan. Versus now, like we're catching stuff much, much earlier.
Right.
Because the resolution on those scans is so much more granular.
Yeah, I also wonder if that's why a lot of psychics have problems with MRIs. Like I got a massive migraine every time I have to do an MRI. Like I come home and go to bed. I'm exhausted. Okay.
Now, do you have any problems going with someone when they get one?
No. It's like, only when I'm in the hotel.
You just been in the room?
No.
Huh.
No.
Well, because there's a field of effect.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would kind of suspect that if you were in the field of effect long enough, it would start to accumulate.
Right.
But I would wonder in that scenario if like just being in the room would be enough to be like, ooh, I'm getting a headache.
Right.
Like, get me out of here, man. Like it's not a migraine. It's not focused on you,
Right.
But because even in those rooms, like, you're not allowed to have anything metal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once you get to the doorway, your metal just stays on the other side,
Right.
because it will get sucked into that machine.
Mm-hmm.
Usually violently.
Right.
So like gurneys and wheelchairs and canes and things like that, you have to leave on the other side of the door.
Mm-hmm.
Because the closer you get to the machine,
Mm-hmm.
the stronger that pull gets.
Right. But no, I've not been in the room while one has been ran, other than when I am the patient. So, but no,
Okay.
I hate them. It's just like, oh God, we got to go through this. And I originally thought it was all the jewelry, because I do have a lot of metal. But it may be more than that.
Do what?
It may be more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, see, I've never really had a problem with with any kind of image testing. It's like, go ahead, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get claustrophobic in machines. I don't have a problem with the sound.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem I ever had, because if we haven't mentioned on the show before, I had infantile seizures.
Right.
So of course we had to do because back in the 80s, and they may still do it, I don't know. But anyway, they would do this electrode scan of your head. I forget what those are. They're what, EEGs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but anyway, when they would do the little electrode cap, they glued those on with this like blue pasty crap.
Right.
And I hated the blue pasty crap.
Right.
Like, I didn't care that you were hooking me up to a machine. It didn't bother me. The problem I had was the blue pasty crap in my hair was just, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yep.
Like, there are stories about my last EEG. I literally lost my shit. Because it's like, no, please, no. Like, no, I can't. I don't want it. Because it was that easy.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's move into Forbes. Psychics made Forbes again.
Oh, yes, the rise of the TikTok psychic and their online impersonators. Spirituality has infiltrated fashion and gone viral on social media, yet the Instagram and TikTok accounts of psychics and intuitive readers are being targeted by online scammers. What can be done? So, mystical and intuitive themes have a long established luxury fashion lineage. Oh, no, you didn't. From Christian Dior's love of tarot to the sold-out evil eye bag charm topping Hermes Birkins, yet spiritual themes have risen to a new level of prominence in the digital age as social media has helped to spread spiritual imagery, themes, and practices beyond niche audiences to garner mass appeal. TikTok in particular has fueled the popularity of intuitive tarot readers like Serena Eli and Psychic Chrissy, both of whom have followings in the hundreds of thousands. Quote, I have seen an increase in readers on social media in the last decade or so. Really? Not only are people much more open to spirituality, but it is more accessible than ever, says Carrie Giantonio of the quite saturated online space during a phone call. In addition to her full-time career as an executive, Giantonio is often hired as a tarot reader for VIP events by fashion and skincare brands such as Alice and Olive and Biologic, and I'm not even going to try. There's always a long queue at events, and our personal client base has grown to include influencers and celebrities. So spirituality's growth in pop culture is also evidenced in the astrological manifestation, self-help, and psychology accounts that make up a formidable niche on social media. Going far beyond the stereotypical questions related to personal life, these accounts oftentimes incorporate psychoeducational insights, Jungian verbiage, and helpful guidance informed by the planetary weather, so to speak. So, yeah, okay, let me go on with this quote. We are at a time where we are looking for personal power through beliefs that we can personalize, writes psychic medium, spiritual mentor, and medical intuitive Heather Carlucci in an email. She posits that the rise of intuitive practices reflects the collective quest for personal empowerment when contending with life stressors, which range from personal woes to the political climate and violence across the globe. Fashion's embrace of spiritual imagery, like evil eyes, sigils, and tarot cards, points to the deeper symbolism of protection in a world that is quickly shifting before our eyes.
And it does, but the problem comes in when we start getting faked. And, this is why we have to literally, like, at one time, I literally made sure every one of my images had my logo on it. Most of my images do. We have to have alerts on our image tags. We have to have alerts. And I have had to send out multiple cease and desist orders for companies and brands that continue to use me even after I'm no longer there.
Yeah, it's not all peace, love, light, and joy.
No.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it is a business and it does function as one.
Mm-hmm.
But this gets more, starts to delve away from the psychic industry and more into the popularity of it.
Right.
And what this is for people. And I think that always comes with a certain vulnerability.
Right.
Which is part of their connection to it.
Right.
Like, I don't think you really, sell a lot of crosses and get a lot of butts into pews, historically, because people are totally comfortable and doing well.
Right.
So inevitably, I think there can be a correlative connection,
right,
between a vulnerability and a problem existing within society,
right,
and turn to religion, spirituality, belief in a greater power, a whatever, to try to cope with that series of issues.
Very much so. And then the other side, and this goes on into the first order to talk about the hi, your ancestors reach out to me and I have a great spiritual message for you. And you look at the name and it's Aeson Knight 2000. That isn't me.
Yeah. Like, if it's random characters and stuff, yeah, that's nice. One, he doesn't even send those messages, but two.
Yeah.
But does it start to suggest maybe there's a need to go that route?
No.
Like, think it through. If because let's face the reality here. There is a segment of the population, and apparently a large enough one, that is sitting here waiting,
right,
to be contacted,
right,
and told, I have a message for you.
Right.
I have something to tell you. I am here for you. Does that start to suggest that maybe the combat for scamming, for people getting scammed, is to adopt that mentality and actually approach people that way?
Right. And then there's this large call for, us to finally be verified on TikTok before we get 1 million followers, before, get verifications. Right now, we have a very large problem. I'm not verified anywhere, and there's a reason for that. They don't want to verify me. Heck, LinkedIn doesn't even like me there.
But no, what are your thoughts on moving it? Because apparently it's quite lucrative if you were to go that route. Like, these scammers are making money. They're not doing it because they're going broke.
Right.
But there is a vulnerable population looking for that kind of contact. Clearly.
Right.
Does it become a thing in which perhaps the combat to so many people getting scammed online is to start moving the industry in a way that they do reach out to people and adopt that same kind of scammer approach without the same intent.
The problem with it is, and here's my whole issue with it, is we can't separate.
Okay.
First of all. Second of all, our industry has that's when we get into Miss Cleo tactics. Right. Yeah, this would be my message to them right here.
Your message would be to tell your mother to harass you, not me.
Exactly. Yeah. But so then we have to go in there, and I've got to make time in my schedule. Like next week, Joe, make sure we schedule a live on TikTok sometime in the week. Just not Wednesday. Yeah. And we have to go out and be present. We have to be on every platform. We have to make our brand and image out there and clear. And rise above the scammers that have been in our industry and are a part of our industry. And I'm talking from networks down to your blue Bodie copy that's messaging you she wants to give you a reading. But we have to go above that. And we have to go right in there and be front and present and be like, I don't message people. You want a reading? Click the link on my profiles. Go to the platforms that I'm on. Click and book an appointment at aesonknight.com. I'll give you a real reading. But going into people's DMs, I think is too much. I think it's outright bullshit. I think that it takes us down to the level of, let me see your fortune. Oh, you'll win the lottery in 6 months. Bullshit. That isn't part of this industry.
Well, but that's unfortunately what the scammers are doing.
Right.
But kind of hear out my argument.
Right.
But there's a clear connection with those messages. I totally get what you're saying, and it's been our long-standing message is that look, this isn't how this works.
Right.
Don't respond to these people. You're gonna get scammed.
Yes.
And I totally get that. What I'm saying is how long because we're sitting here and we're years into seeing this. That every time we go live, someone sends that. Every time you put something online and someone interacts with it, they get that. At what point, or do we? Because clearly the scammers aren't going to stop. This works. It's a working tactic.
Right.
So clearly this is the kind of connection and individualization that people are looking for, even if it is bot control.
Right. See, and...
do you ever want to engage it, though?
There are times
maybe where the industry
engages
it and goes, well, this clearly works. Get on it.
Well, I have thought, and I don't know, I have thought about sending a code to every one of my TikTok followers that here's a code. You can go and get a reading with me professionally over here. That is about as far as I want to delve into that pool. Because I'm not going to do the call me now bullshit. I'm not going to do the I have a message for you, or the one that went viral here, and this was literally the viral video they're talking about, is you're either you're either going to hit the lottery, get an inheritance or something. And I'm looking at the card she pulled, and I'm like, oh no, that says they're getting a damn job firing.
You're not even close, honey.
Yeah.
You're not even close.
Yeah.
But here's where I kind of start to have a concern.
Right.
Is when because again, if we go back to this ideologically, that this turn to spirituality is caused by pain and suffering and trauma in the world in which we live, there's a natural gravity, and has long been, like, Christianity has been selling this shit.
Right.
Hawking it.
Right.
Hawking it. Hard as they can for a millennia. Of this, you know, like, your suffering now leads to your, you know, perpetual indulgence in the afterlife. Right. That you're building your kingdom in heaven.
Right.
And has hawked that and hawked that and hawked that and
right.
And they like so much money. Like, I'm sorry, you like, I'm probably inviting the haters in for this one, but quite frankly, Christianity's never given a shit about its followers.
No.
They love the money. They love the money. Every pittance counts. You know, like, how do you build a cathedral? Like, you know, one parishioner, 1 shilling at a time. You know, one little pence at a time. Gladly take that. Don't care if you eat. Don't care if you eat. But, you know, your suffering now builds up your kingdom in heaven.
Right.
So please send all you can. We really need this really nice gilded, like, cathedral. Because Jesus. But like, Christianity did that. Like, there's no arguing it.
Right.
They've been doing it. They're still doing it. They will keep doing it. And so many religions have sprung up on the same wavelength that do the same thing. And I've always found it interesting that, like, Wicca and paganism in general, even Satanism, kind of stand off to the side and go, look, don't hurt yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, take care of yourself first.
Well, not only that, but I find it highly interesting, and you know, this is devolving from the topic, but let's go into this topic. Okay. Most Wiccans pay their taxes. They pay their taxes on their services. They pay their taxes on their coven land. They pay their taxes. Like, they don't take any tax breaks. Most Satanists do not take any tax breaks.
Like, they're pretty cool with the idea that paying taxes does good things for the whole of society.
Exactly. And that's part of their responsibility. They also don't do this. And if they're doing this, then they're not really doing the faith. They don't do this. Where's my 10%? It's your payday. You got to pay your tithes into the cauldron. Where's the money?
Yeah. But granted, most of your, you know, can we be honest here that most of your Wiccan pagan, like, temples and covens and all this are struggling.
Yeah.
Like, they struggle. Like, they don't go after people with this, like, I don't care if you eat this week, but, like, we need to gild this cauldron.
Exactly.
Like, where's your money?
Yeah, it's going to be like, did you eat? Have you eaten? What you eaten? Oh, you don't have any food? Get your ass over here and get it out of the cabinets.
Yeah, like, gladly clear your house and just be like, you know what? It'll work out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just like it flows opposite. It always seems to flow opposite. It's not, look, I see you're suffering, but have you tithed recently? Do you think that might be your problem?
Right. And this all right, I'm going to step aside for a moment. And when I say I'm going to step aside for a moment, I'm stepping aside for a moment because I have to make sure that I'm speaking for me and not for my coven. This prosperity gospel is bullshit. Oh, give this, give that, give this, give that, give this, give that. Oh, I don't care if you ain't paid your bills today, this week. Give this money and God will bless you.
Right, and that's the key last part, is the more you give, the more you get. The more you give, like, it's a total pyramid scheme. Like, has no one ever put this in terms, like, are we so afraid of religion to ever realize the prosperity gospel is a fucking pyramid scheme?
Yeah.
Like, it's just up lines telling down lines to give more to get more. Like, you want to get ahead, you got to give more. You you gotta do more,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll get more, and then you can do more, and then
Mm-hmm.
and the whole time, like the last 20 rungs
Mm-hmm.
are like ramen and skip a day.
Right.
Whereas everyone up top is sitting there like, I have everything I could ever
Right.
want more.
Right. And,
Like,
we're never going to see, because of the way it's structured, because of the way it's community first, the way that it's family first, the way that it's take care of yourself first. We're never going to see a mega temple. We're never going. I don't care what the Cabots do. They build a beautiful temple up in Salem out of their own money, out of their own sales, out of their own works. You're never going to see a cathedral Wiccan temple. You're never going to see a high priest driving a Lexus, living in a 54-bed mansion, while his covenants are eating cat food off their Social Security checks. That's
and
not
meanwhile,
how
the
it
whole
works.
time going on on the internet at this point, becoming an internet, prophet,
Mm-hmm.
going, send me your money, send me your money, send me your money. I don't care if you didn't eat today, send me your money.
Right.
Like, you're not going to see it. It doesn't work.
Right.
Generally speaking.
Right.
But I think that sometimes, and I think it's very important to the Forbes article, and the whole TikTok sensation and the scammers, is that part of this, I think there's an innate understanding that we have taught people,
right,
and it's very simplistic, is that you have to suffer to be rewarded. Like, you can't just exist and have people respect that you exist and provide you with the tools necessary to thrive, because that's crazy.
Right.
Instead, you have to suffer, and through your suffering, you convey your worthiness. And once you're worthy, it will be rewarded.
Right.
Is this mentality we have, and I think that is often where this susceptibility to scams.
Right, and I feel
like it's what it hits on. It's like when you have someone hit you up for $5,000. But they're promising, like, your suffering now is gonna pay off. It tickles a part of this of our brain that we have had molded into us.
And see the other side of this, and the other side that people want to come down on psychics or want to like fuss about is psychic junkies. And I promise you, you're a psychic junkie, you really don't want a reading with me. And it'll probably be the only reading you ever get with me.
Yeah, you're going to be so mad.
Well, not only that, but if you come back to me, because I've had them, and you've helped. We've developed policies to prevent this behavior.
Yeah.
When they're blowing 5, 6, 8 thousands of dollars, isn't going to be at my doorstep. And it's not that I don't want to help you. It's that it stops helping you. It stops when you're asking me what color shirt to put on and what you should eat for the day, if you should eat for the day, if you've got something to eat. Or you're calling me and you don't have the money for your house payment. I have a problem.
Right. But do you perhaps see a shift in the industry that they're starting to move away from that concern?
I don't think so. I think it's always going to be a concern. I think it's always going to have to be a controlled effort, a controlled environment. And that comes to the ethical behavior of the readers. And then we've got to watch the networks. Always, we have to be on top of those networks, because they see a client that's like, oh, you're dropping $3,000 a day. And yes, this occurs. Well, you're a valued customer. Let's go ahead and enhance that so that you'll spend 6, you'll spend 8. It won't be with me.
But do you see a point in which and when I say industry, I don't mean the individual psychics. I'm talking about the networks and the platforms and the whatever we're going to call them this week, moving in a direction in which they're going, yeah, ethics are nice, but they don't pay bills. Right. So we're going to start like teasing off and rewarding those of you who don't really do the ethics thing. And we're going to start like, because we've kind of seen it, putting on a silver platter, customers that we already ran their credit card, we know what their available limit is.
Right.
Like, here you go. Like, you market the hell towards them.
Well, there's a
kill.
There's a tint to that, but there's also a tint to, like, there's regulations. Like, calls can only last 120 minutes.
But that's more federal.
Yes, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of that coming in. And we're already seeing it in other countries. A lot more regulations going on. There's a reason a lot of companies are getting closed and a lot of fines are happening is because they are not and cannot maintain those regulations.
Yeah. But with the consolidations you're seeing in the industry, do you also think it's possible to get their own lobbyists and start pulling those regulations back? Because we see it happen in other industries.
Right.
That it's like, look, you're regulating the fuck out of us.
Right.
And like, here's some money.
Right.
Could you maybe not do that?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get there.
Okay.
I don't think that, I don't think the industry's got it. I also think that the other side of that is you've got organizations like Teropolis and International Psychics and Spiritual Registry and like Bob Orman's is going, oh, fuck no. I catch you doing that and I will shut your business down. I will pull the endorsement. I will pull your certifications. And then, we've got the EU, which is the champion of privacy, the champion of all this, going in and going, what? Oh, that's $160,000 for that one client that you did not do X, Y, and Z for.
But that's only if you submit yourself to that. Like, and that's kind of the TikTok phenomenon is this, like, the upside / horrible downside of social media is you can just pop up.
Right.
Like, you can be a nobody today. No one knows who the fuck you are, what you do. But if you can show up and present the right image and say the right words and sound the right way, you can become a viral sensation. And no one cares if you've ever had a class, if you have a single ethical bone in your body, if you care a damn about your clients. There isn't a single entity you're registered with.
Right.
And you, as long as you can pop a website, which is pretty fucking easy, and especially if you're making money hand over fist on TikTok lives with roses and stars or whatever the fuck that shit is, and you can turn that into cash,
right?
And then you can sit there and it's a booking software, and until you get to a point in which someone thinks maybe, I don't know, my suffering wasn't worth it. Like, I didn't get the reward. And even then...
Right. Well, but even then, you have federal regulations are going to catch them. EU is going to catch them. They're going to be showing up at the door going, here, oh, you didn't pay on those roses. Here's your subpoena. Here's your fines. We caught you reading a 16-year-old and not reading. You answered 3 questions, so that's $15,000. Here you go. This is why, like, I'm trying to figure out how to do the TikTok, but I'm going to have to apply the same rules we do here. Name, birth date. Name, birth date. The reason for that is because, sorry, Yeah, they're fun. They're free readings. I get that, but you ain't worth $15,000 for going. Yes, he's going to call you. It'll be in 2 weeks, and yes, he does care for you.
But therein lies the competition
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of blurring of that line between, TikTok medium, TikTok psychic,
Mm-hmm.
and someone who is professionally
Right.
a psychic or a medium. That, again, you can be a nobody yesterday.
Yeah.
Say the right things, say it the right way, sound the right, look the right, look the part, whatever, become a viral sensation.
Right.
You know none of the industry like standards or whatever, and you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
You read on 12-year-olds, you do the whole thing, and you can get in an instant so far down the path in a world that is asking for it. Like, you still have people that show up that are like, what's your date of birth?
Right.
And they're going to be like, 10, 15, 20, 2009.
Right.
Whatever. You know what I mean? And you're sitting there like the alarm bell's going off in your brain. I can't read for you. They turn right around to TikTok, and TikTok didn't even ask them what their birth date was. They're old enough to have an account.
Right.
And they're suddenly on a live getting the answer to their question. Oh, by the way, send me some whatever for
right. And as soon as they do that, and the feds catch them, because I promise you, if they catch the news, they're going to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Every answer from that point on, including okay, like it's a trained technique for a lot of people to do okay in a reading because they're compiling information. $5,000 per word.
Right. But do you think it's still as heavily enforced as it once was?
Yes, and it's getting even worse.
Okay. All right, so we've got a bit of a conversation brewing here.
Oh, we've got a lot of them. But really, yeah, I'm going to tell you, to those watching, the FCC done sent out warnings to not only us, to Amazon, to TikTok, to YouTube. They're going to be cracking down. Right now, they're on crypto. They're going to be cracking down on influencers. They're going to be cracking down on readers. Why? The government needs money. They're going to be collecting.
Oh, yes. Oh, so Emily, let's start there because this just is specific to one point.
Right.
So Emily says the idea of goals take a sacrifice has some merit, like spending time exercising to get more fit, dedicating your time and effort into your education. However, there is a toxic corruption of this. Not all sacrifices are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Very much so. So that was one conversation coming up.
Then she comes in with this, and Emily, that is the Aries full moon coming to kick ass.
Yes. All right. So now we have another conversation that brewed.
Mm-hmm.
So Shannon says, I was driving. Anyone want to hear a couple of horror stories and why Shannon hates the concept of tithing? And it was what put the nail in the coffin on religion to me. And of course, that conversation. Yes. So the first path of my loathing of religion and tithing was when my great grandma couldn't buy food or pay any of her bills because the televangelist hotline was calling her, promising her a special place in heaven if she would give them $500, so she'd give them a check over the phone. We had to get power of attorney to get control of her finances to stop her from doing that every week. They preyed on her, Preyed, and I would see it in the local church, and my mom's mega church did not like it. The last nail was when we had been eating ramen for 3 meals a day for months, and I started doing odd jobs for grocery money. My mom was saying we weren't going to be able to pay the mortgage because we didn't have enough money coming in. I made over $500 and put it into her account to help her pay the mortgage. I get back the deposit slip and she has over $10,000 in the bank. I started throwing a fit, and she said that it was God's money, and we weren't allowed to touch it because it was for tithing for the year. I was just, God knows we need groceries, Mom. But it was a fight, and the fact that they knew we couldn't afford food, but still took the check when she wrote it, pissed me off, and I have not liked church since.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't even know how you look at your family and, like, live off of ramen for months and don't, at least, and I'm not saying go, like, blow 10 grand at like, Sam's Club, okay? But sit there and have a moment where it's like, I don't think it's God's money if your basic necessities aren't getting met. Like, why don't we talk about what part of our money is God's money? Because shouldn't that be the amount that we have available?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe there's the point in which you've not thought this through.
Okay. So,
and yes, it's
teachings. Old teachings. We're talking the 60s and 70s.
Ooh.
Okay. Let me bring out my old files. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's.
Well, Caesar runs the fucking grocery store, okay? That's my theory.
Well, this is an old quote, an old sermon, and yes, it's filed back in with a lot of trauma. That means pay your taxes, then pay your church, then pay your bills. The problem was they forgot the other side of that argument and that statement, which is then the church takes the tithing money and goes back to the community.
Yeah. That is a large part of the missing conversation.
Yeah.
Like the money, well, and a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed.
Yes.
We're not agrarian people who just kind of like grow our own food and maybe sell a little bit of it. And sure, you can take your 10% and go give it to the church. It's, you know what I mean? Like 10% is not going to kill you. But when we moved to a point that we had to work to survive, that we had to take W-2 jobs to work to survive.
Right.
In a world in which have a garden, how do you do that in an apartment with the sustainability to feed yourself perpetually?
Right.
You can't do it. It doesn't work. You can grow a few things and save a couple bucks. I'm not saying you can't. Most people have a deck or a patio or something.
Right.
But you're not going to hit the point where you can feed a family of 4.
Right.
You know, your average family size.
Right.
Off of what you can grow on a fucking patio.
Right.
I don't care how religiously you take care of that little garden. You're not going to get enough food.
Right. Now,
like,
if I believe it's Matthew, I may be wrong, it may be John. If you go and read the problems going on now in the Christian churches, and I'm not talking about the little church on the hill with the pastor that gets $50 a month to preach. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about them big, huge, 1,000-member churches with bank accounts, and the pastor drives the latest car, and the church pays for his house, and that should not be occurring. That is exactly what their profit threw tables at.
Yeah, like that wasn't supposed to be the deal.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do a total indictment of mega religion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's already there. It's already written.
Mega spirituality.
Yeah.
Okay. I get paid for my work. I expect to be paid for my work. I deserve to be paid for my work. I should not be extorting people for my work.
Yeah. And that's fundamentally. what often the separation we see, and I'm not saying all Christianity is bad. I'm not saying every pastor is bad.
Right.
I'm not like, please don't ever take that from anything I say. There's good people out there. The world is full of good people. There's a lot of shitty human beings.
Right.
But the world is predominantly filled with decent human beings.
Right.
But there is this mentality that you have to suffer to be rewarded. That is innate to us, that has been molded into us over generations. That feels very natural and gets very tickled when you stroke it, and does incite this connection that the more you do, the more you suffer, the better it's gonna get.
Right.
And it's been exploited. It's routinely exploited. It is the commonality of most exploitative things.
Right.
There's a whole other subset, but when we, in this argument, in what we're talking about in terms of TikTok and scammers and religion and scammers in general, and the scammy nature of religion that can exist, again, not everyone's horrible. But it is the part that I think gets tickled. And we totally release ourselves to this idea that we're going to fix our pain by give everything you got.
Right.
Like, how much worse can it get? I think is reality for a lot of people anymore.
Right.
Like, it can't get much worse. Like, it's like buying a lottery ticket when it's the last $2 damn dollars you have.
Right.
The $2 wasn't going to do shit for you if it's all you had left.
Right.
Well, might as well take a chance on winning the lottery versus, holding on to $2 more that, isn't going to do anything for you.
Right. But on the other side of that, this is a great way to test the pastor if he's worth his weight and if he's worth his salt of his Bible. Call him up at 4 a.m.
Oh yeah, if you can't do that, if there's no means to do that, then yeah, you're in a mega church.
Well, not only that, you need to be questioning what your church is doing for the community, what your organization is doing for the community. There are wonderful psychics out there. There are wonderful pastors out there. There are pastors that will get up on a Saturday morning and load up everything they've got in the house and go throw a barbecue.
Yeah. Or the experience I had indirectly, I mean, and this was back in college. And we've talked about it on the show before, just in a totally different angle. But like one of the greatest pastors I ever heard of in terms of, I can't believe she did it, but oh my God, if you want to talk about commitment to your people. Dude with her organization got arrested for embezzlement. This woman took her rent check. His pastor took her rent check. The money in the bank for her rent and used it to bail him out. And I was like, first of all, you're going to regret that. Second of all, holy crap. Holy crap. How many people do you know?
A lot of old-time pastors.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of old-time pastors. A lot of old-time spiritualists, a lot of psychics. They may not bail people out, but they may spend hours on the phone working through a process, working through a situation, explaining something out. And this is where it gets dicey, and it gets dicey in multiple reasons. There are psychics that, nope, my hours are 9 to 5. I ain't stepping on that line unless it's 9 to 5. Don't care what you say in your email. There are psychics that will get the hell up at 9 in the morning just because you've emailed them and said, I need you now.
Or we'll see the message come through that you've arranged to call.
Right.
And they'll go, I was headed to bed. I've heard that one before in this house.
Yeah.
I was headed to bed.
Yeah.
Because, like, I wake up in the morning. He works at nights. I wake up in the morning, and sometimes it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were supposed to have been in bed hours ago.
Client needs me.
Well, I signed out.
Yep. Client needs me.
And then...
Or this is a crisis situation going on, and I'm waiting for the call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say from the perspective, like, this is the other half of someone in this industry. I've sat in, like, we were going to lunch is what I got told. We got into a car. He checked his messages. Next thing I know, I'm sitting 30 minutes in a parking lot outside of a restaurant, hungry as hell, while he's talking to a client.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I ain't mad at y'all. I ain't mad at y'all. I ain't even mad at him. Like, I understand it. But let me tell you, there is something about sitting in that parking lot and smelling your lunch for 30 minutes.
Get used to it, baby. My clients come first. You knew that the day one we got together.
I'm just saying, there's a moment. Like, you don't want to talk to me right now. Like, no one wants to talk to me right now. I have sat here in this parking lot smelling my lunch for 30 minutes. Like, I don't hate you, but you don't want to message me right now. Like, you need to let me get fed first, and then I'll be okay with you again. But it is one of those things. Like, this will not work if I were one of those people that is going to hold a grudge,
right,
against you or against the client. Which most of the time I don't even know what client. I don't know what's going on. Frankly, whatever. I trust your decision making that this was important. But yeah, there's a solid, like, 30 minutes afterwards. You don't want to reach out to me.
Yeah, he has, and I'll just look at him and go, all right, let's get it done.
Yeah. I've had client emergencies and been like, yeah, that's not going to happen today.
Well, not only that, but, I can think of one instance. I looked at you and said, all right, here's our battle list. This is what we need to take care of right now. This, to this, to this, to this. And you do this, I do this. See, here's the difference between the Aeson and Joe combo. Aeson can do a lot of Joe. I can web design. I can load content. I can load text. I can work out a server issue. I can run bots, run a basic computer diagnostic. Yeah, you do a tarot reading.
I mean, at this point, I can. ChatGPT is going to be involved, but like, I'm going to make it easy on myself. But no, I mean, but the realities are the biggest difference really comes down to the time of day. Like, because you work nights predominantly,
right?
There's not a lot of influence about it. Like, we can't go out to eat at 2 a.m. anymore.
Unfortunately.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I have a client that has a problem at 2 a.m., the only thing that really typically gets affected is I get woken up or prevented from going to sleep. It's unlikely we're headed anywhere. But when you get up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we could be anywhere, on our way to literally anywhere. Like, there's a possibility.
Welcome to. Well, and that's just the psychic side. That's not even the HP side. That doesn't. I don't throw that title around a lot lightly. One of my students, one of my governors, call me. World stops. That's called being a psychic and being a spiritualist and being a high priest. These are things that come with this role.
Oh, bless Shannon's little heart. Just use his manual from his tarot class and Control F. Girl, I've done things on the back end. Like, I've done things on the back end. Like I have tarot card definitions stored in OneNote, organized by suit, pre-formatted in HTML.
Just not
like we're not using the manuals anymore. Like we've already.
Yep. All right. So everyone knows I've got these very strict. These are Aeson's rules if he is going in public. And here's why. This case, I remember this case when it broke the news.
Okay.
And finally, karma comes back.
Yes. So the inmate who murdered Japanese psychic is killed in attack at Halawa prison. Raida Fukasaku, I hope I didn't butcher that name too badly, has served almost 30 years for the shooting deaths of a famous Japanese psychic and her son. So a man convicted in 2 murders that triggered a media furor in Japan in 1994 died Monday after he was found beaten and stabbed in a cell at Halawa Correctional Facility in Oahu, according to law enforcement agencies. Raida, and I'm not going to do the last name again, 59, had served almost 30 years for the shooting deaths of Japanese fortune teller Taoka Katatomi Fujita and her son Goro. Tako Fujita's body was found in a Honolulu apartment that had been set on fire. Her son's body was found the following day in a car parked nearby. Tawako Fujita was well known because she had been consulted by Japanese political and corporate leaders. Raida was arrested after he tried to pawn her jewelry in Japan. He was the first Japanese national charged with murder to be extradited to the United States, according to media reports at the time, and was indicted for shooting both victims, but denied he pulled the trigger. He claimed Japanese Yakuza, or organized crime figures, were to blame. This is the equivalent of like the Japanese mafia. But he was convicted and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms for the slayings. The State Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation said he was found unresponsive and bleeding on the floor of his cell. Honolulu police reported he was found at 11:30 p.m. He was a general population inmate described as a docile prisoner by corrections staff. It was determined that the victim had been assaulted and stabbed by a cellmate, a 38-year-old male, Honolulu police said. Adding that a weapon had been recovered, a statement from corrections officials said he also suffered trauma to his head and neck. Prison staff immediately called 911 and performed CPR until emergency medical service workers arrived and took over, the statement said. EMS personnel pronounced the inmate dead. So his cellmate was immediately removed from the cell and placed in a holding unit, prison officials said. The cellmate was not publicly identified. The case is the second killing of a Hawaii prison inmate this year. Anton Mickelburst, 46, was found beaten and strangled in a cell at Seguro Correctional Center in Eloy, Arizona on May 4th. The State Department of Law Enforcement Criminal Investigation Division is leading the investigation into his death. Prison officials and HPD are also investigating the Corrections Department.
Well, I would say, I'm sorry, I can't be nice about this.
I mean, that's kind of slow karma, but
right.
I mean, from what 1994 to 2024, like literally 30 years, almost literally 30 years. Like I don't know the exact dates of the 94 crime. It may be just shy or just over.
Right.
But yeah, that's. I don't know how to feel about karma when it basically, like, is it karma? Is it really?
February 23rd, 1994. About
Yeah, so
5
a little over 30 years.
Yeah.
But is it karma or senseless violence? Like he's already been arrested, he's been tried, he's on, he's serving a sentence. And I don't think this was a moment where he was getting retribution for what he did in 94.
Right.
This was something totally unrelated. Most likely. Like a 38-year-old inmate who was 8 at the time that he committed his criminal act. Like how would this be connected?
I don't think he was 8.
The cellmate was 38 when he killed.
Right. Okay, I was about to say I get that point.
Yeah, I don't see a karmic line there necessarily. Right. It just sounds like I mean, it may have a feeling of karmic closure, but does it really?
To me, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, especially when you shoot somebody in the chest multiple times. And then if this was a senseless robbery, we get that. But then to go after the son.
Well, and I mean, I could definitely see a karmic line if all this started over just the jewelry. And the potentiality that a cellmate wants something.
Right.
Wants your food, wants your cigarettes, wants your something.
Right.
Like, I can kind of see a bit of a karmic line there. I mean, almost feels a little bit like rehashing the dad on a slow news day. You know what I mean?
There we go.
Like, that's a 30-year-old headline that just got yanked into 2020.
Yeah, but I remember this is when we started the security.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because it took them 3 years to prosecute him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So okay, going back to 30 years, back to 94, what was, had nothing really happened to a prominent psychic before then?
Nothing to this level. Nothing to this level of, being, the robbery was secondary.
Okay. It's basically you've already killed her, might as well grab her shit.
Exactly.
Okay. So what was the actual motive?
The actual motive was she had read for somebody.
Okay. So basically it was a little more like a hit with your payment is take her shit.
Okay. And attempted to extort $20,000 from her.
Oh.
Yeah, he held her at gunpoint and tried to get her to get the bank to release $20,000, and then stole her shit.
But he couldn't get her to do it.
Well, no, he got her on the phone.
Oh, as in he got the money?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, what did that do amongst other psychics, though? Was it a sudden realization of a blind spot that, I'm trying to?
Well, it was a sudden realization that we have to be more cautious of our behavior. We have to be more focused of our behavior. We have to be more watchful of what we do.
So 94, you're running around. You don't care if you're using your real
closest hotel or you're staying at the host hotel. You're doing your readings. your address is online, at that point, no problem, come to blah, blah, blah to do the for
Your
your
phone number's in the phone book. You
Exactly.
don't really care. Here's my business card with my name, address, and phone number. Like,
yeah.
Just out here living your best life. Like, I don't care.
No
I just told
need for security at events. There was no need for, you're just doing readings. You're just doing lectures.
What's the harm?
What's the harm?
Like, no one had really stopped to think. You just told this man's wife.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, you just told this woman that
Mm-hmm.
her husband's cheating.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really have a step backwards of I think dude's gonna be pretty pissed if he finds out she found out through a psychic.
Right.
And maybe.
Right. Or, what's it going to matter? Here again, gone tomorrow. Because it's a one-day event. It's a weekend event. It's a, Assembly of Light event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's my business card in case you want to reach out to me later.
Uh-huh.
Here's all the networks I work on. Here's the next event I'm going to be at. Here's the...
Yeah.
Because it's 94, you probably all barely had websites if you did. You probably had a paper mailing list.
A mailing list. Like we had mailing lists and all that with our return address.
To your house.
To our house.
Like ... right to your front door.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't have thought anything about being in an event, talking about your kids, talking about your spouse, talking about, and naming people.
Where you at, who you read for, oh, I just got back from this Caribbean cruise. None of this.
And if you're reading for celebrities, you're talking about it. I'm reading for, John Travolta, whoever. You know what I mean? You're dropping names.
You wouldn't lay that out, but you would,
okay.
Oh, I'm flying out next week to LA and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to be you didn't think security. You didn't think any of this.
Right.
Okay. You just thought, okay, you did not have a thought of security. You never thought that even the upper levels, I would say I'm a B list.
Yeah.
Okay. You wouldn't, A and double A's didn't think about it. Why do I need security? Just send me a car.
Yeah. Sort of like the 80s, mom forgot to pick you up. You didn't call home. You just walked home. How far away could you live? It wasn't a big deal. What's going to happen?
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I did it, and mom freaked out and was like, oh my God, you could have been kidnapped or whatever. Right. And it's Mom, we're in Princeton, West Virginia, for crying out loud. Who's going to pick me up? Do I look like I'm easily abductable?
Right.
I no.
Right.
The worst thing that's going to happen to me is a skinned knee. Chill out.
Right.
Do you think I'm stupid?
Right.
You know what I mean? You think I'm just going to get in a car with just anybody?
Mm-hmm.
That says, your mom sent me to pick you up. Mom doesn't have that many friends, okay?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm not stupid. Oh, look, puppies and free candy. I'm not stupid.
Right.
I'm not all that easily abductable. There are a couple of kids in my class. It's a miracle. Really. Right. That they weren't abducted. Anyone else go to school in the 80s and you had a couple of friends that you're you're going to end up in a van.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You are just too flippin' stupid to exist. You're going to end up in a van.
Mm-hmm.
You understood when their parents were oh my God, no. But you were sitting over here I'm not dumb. They have showed us that video.
Yeah.
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big kid. I started kindergarten at 100 pounds. I only got bigger.
Right.
Okay. I'm not chunk me in a van. This is going to take two adults.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? If I'm being abducted, I went willingly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They had cheesecake. But anyhow, No, during
you
this
had
time, it
4
was
other
very
kids.
a very naive time. I mean, we weren't seeing a star celebrities. We weren't seeing like any of that.
Oh no! See, now Brenda talks about like, yeah, we used to drink we used milk on our breakfast cereal from milk cartons with missing children, but stayed out playing until the streetlights came on, out of everyone's sight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the fuck, I did not. Oh, the fuck, I did not. My siblings have that experience of being like turned loose into the world, go do whatever, just like come home for dinner.
Right.
I did not. Mom, I can remember her the minute I got out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
Was on a window screaming for
me. Mm-hmm.
Like there was none of this out of sight bullshit.
Right. But no, Brenda comments, this is the reason Aeson does not stay in the city the events are in. No, I don't.
Yeah. Nope. We're going to be miles away. Many miles away.
Yes.
We're
going
but
to.
No.
But there's other, like, I don't leave an event to go out and smoke unless my handler knows. I don't go to events without a handler. I don't care if it's a party reading of 5 people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my handler's coming along. He may sit in a car, but he's coming along. I don't care who it is. Like, there are certain things, certain rules and protocols, and I'm not discussing all of them on air.
Right. Like, in a little bit of security is obscurity. Like, what you don't know is what you don't know, and what you don't know can't hurt us. And there is some reality to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. So Shannon says my brother would joke of a kidnapper had a bookmobile that I'd go willingly.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's I mean, a scholastic book fair could have abducted me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could have gotten abducted for that.
Yeah.
I think Mom would have understood that. Been like, that's fair. That's fair.
Right. But no, like this case went on for a very long time, and he took it all the way to the Supreme Court because he fought it left, right, and center. He was guilty of both, and it was a targeted attack.
Mm-hmm. Although I wonder on that one, what if his claim were legitimate?
I think it would be interesting if it was legitimate. I doubt it was.
Okay.
I doubt it seriously that it was.
And then how do you contrast like 94 and psychics in the industry that have grown up in this to like TikTok psychics hopping online today? Like, do you see them being more forthcoming to be like, I'm over here and blah, 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 and you just come on down and see me? Like, do you feel like that's kind of where they're at? Or do you think there's like just the rest of the world itself and growing up with this, like, you don't want to end up on a milk carton?
No. I think there's a lot. I think that there's a lot of things the kids don't know that are dangerous. I think that they film way too much in places they shouldn't, that are identifiable. By the way, I posted that for our Patreons.
Oh, there we
go. For them to see. But I think that, you know, and this is why I've always, like, start mentoring with me. You're going to get everything.
Oh, yes. And Emily's mom always does feed the handler.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brenda also agrees I could be kidnapped by free bucks.
Right.
But Shannon says we were raised, don't get in the car with strangers and don't tell strangers on the internet where you live. Now we call a stranger on the internet to come pick us up and give us a ride to our front door. Yeah.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a joke. It is, but it's the truth.
Right. I would hope that, you know, the older psychics in the industry see the young pups come up and going, you don't want to do that. You also don't want to do that.
Do you also think maybe the world's changed?
Yes, but not in a good manner.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, I'm just kind of going with the theory that could be floated.
mm-hmm.
That fundamentally we've kind of all lost that kind of anonymity that we once had.
To a point,
Like,
we have.
so much is online.
Right. To a point, we have. To a point, we have lost that anonymity. But at the same time, there's a lot of undercurrent anonymity that is still there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this show is running a little long, but we are going to take a break, and then we'll come back and ask and figure out if Joe's the asshole this week.
All right.
All right, so let's flip that up, and we'll be right back.
Love diving into metaphysical topics, psychic insights, and lively discussions? Now you can help keep the conversation going. By becoming a Patreon supporter of The Psychic Coffee Shop, you'll gain access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and special perks just for our patrons. Join our community and ensure that your favorite psychic show continues to thrive. Your support helps us bring more enlightening episodes, special guests, and deep dives into the world of the unseen. Become a patron today and enjoy a cup of wisdom with us every week. Click the link to join the baristas and unlock exclusive content. Thank you for your support.
Unlock your full potential with Aeson Knight's life coaching. Are you ready to take control of your life and manifest the future you deserve? Aeson Knight, a seasoned life coach and master psychic, is here to guide you on a transformative journey. Whether you're navigating personal challenges, career transitions, or seeking spiritual growth, Aeson's life coaching services offer tailored guidance to help you achieve your goals. With Aeson by your side, you'll discover the tools to overcome obstacles, embrace your true self, and create a life filled with purpose and fulfillment. His unique blend of spiritual insight and practical coaching empowers you to turn your dreams into reality. Ready to make a change? Book your session today and start your journey to a more empowered, balanced, and joyful life with Aeson Knight. Click the link to schedule your first session and step into your power.
Are you ready for an electrifying podcast experience that keeps you coming back for more? Join Aeson Knight every week as he takes you on a journey through captivating shows, each exploring unique and fascinating topics. And here's the best part. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode where you can get your burning questions answered live on air, absolutely free. Whether it's relationship advice, career guidance, or mystical insights, Aeson's podcasts have got you covered. When you subscribe, you become part of a vibrant community, engaging directly with Aeson as he shares his wisdom and leaves you feeling empowered and enlightened. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation. What you'll get by subscribing: Monday 5 p.m. Metaphysics. Today, soulful conversations with Aeson Knight and Firefly, exploring the essence of metaphysics in today's world. Tuesday 8 p.m. The Psychic Coffee Shop. Dive into current events with a psychic twist, featuring special guests and thought-provoking discussions. Friday 9 p.m. The Mountain Bears Podcast. Lively discussions from a gayish, techie-ish, bearish perspective with Aeson and Joe. Sunday 5 p.m. Psychic That Plans. Get a weekly tarot energy overview and time management tips from Aeson Knight. Click here to subscribe now and never miss an episode. By subscribing, you're not just tuning in, you're joining a community of curious minds and ensuring you're always in the loop with Aeson's insightful and interactive shows. Don't wait. Hit that subscribe button and get ready for an amazing podcast journey.
Ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery? Join Lord Aeson Knight in our Wicca courses. Unveil the secrets of Wicca. Explore deity relationships, rituals, and more. As a third-degree high priest, Aeson Knight guides you toward empowerment and enlightenment. Enroll today and take your first step into the magical circle. Click the link to begin your journey.
Psychic Saturday. Get 50% off with Aeson Knight every third Saturday of the month. Don't miss out. Book now.
All right, welcome back.
Absolutely. So, am I the asshole for making my parents choose between me and my sister for Christmas? So, I, 28 male, have an older sister, 32 female, who I've always had a rocky relationship with. Growing up, my parents clearly favored her, letting her get away with things I never could, giving her more attention, and constantly making excuses for her bad behavior. My sister was always the golden child, and I was often pushed aside. But what really made things worse was how my sister treated me. She would constantly belittle me, steal my things, and manipulate my parents into believing I was the troublemaker. I've always been the forgive and forget type because I didn't want to cause issues in the family, but over the years, her behavior escalated. Fast forward to last year's Christmas. I had just started dating my now girlfriend, 26 female, and it was the first time I was going to bring her to meet my family. I was really excited, but my sister managed to ruin everything. She made snide comments about my girlfriend, saying she wasn't good enough for me, made rude remarks about her appearance, and even accidentally spilled wine on her dress. It was humiliating for my girlfriend, and I could see she was hurt, but she kept quiet to avoid drama. After the holidays, I sat down with my parents and told them how I felt. They apologized, but gave the usual, "That's just how your sister is," excuse. I told them I didn't want to subject my girlfriend to that kind of treatment again and hoped things would change next year. Well, it's been almost a year and nothing has changed. My sister hasn't apologized or made any effort to be civil. Now Christmas is around the corner, and my girlfriend and I are invited to the family gathering. I called my parents and said that I won't be attending if my sister is there. And if they want me to come, they'll need to choose between me or her. They're calling me selfish, saying that I'm ruining Christmas for everyone by making them choose. But honestly, I'm tired of always being the one to make peace and tolerate my sister's behavior. I feel like I deserve to enjoy the holidays without dealing with her toxicity, especially if my girlfriend is with me. My parents are pressuring me to just let it go for the sake of the family, but I feel like enough is enough. Am I the asshole for making them choose?
No.
I might be a little more controversial. I think you are.
Okay.
I think you're after something you're never gonna get.
Right.
And more importantly, you've put such a fine point on it. You already know how this ultimatum's gonna play out.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I really, really have to suggest you get some therapy. It's not that I don't believe you. I wholeheartedly believe you. The reality is the way you're dealing with this is only going to hurt yourself more.
Okay.
Because you're looking what you really want in this situation. Your wounded inner child is screaming for the attention you never got, to be believed when you say, because you say that you're forgive and forget. You're not. You're not. You became complacent.
Right.
With the reality that no matter how hard you fought, how hard you struggled, or what you did,
Mm-hmm.
you were never going to be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so your wounded little inner child is still running around all these years later, looking for mommy and daddy to pick you, choose you, believe you, side with you. And you're not going to get it.
Right.
Like you've clearly established you're not going to get it. So all you're doing at this point is basically like cementing into
Mm-hmm.
the reality that they're never going to pick you.
Right.
You know this. You know this.
Right.
So instead of, and the reason I say you need therapy for this is all you're doing is hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not offering up a solution
Mm-hmm.
in which you get to have your happy holidays
Mm-hmm.
and your parents don't have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way to have done that would have been to take the initiative, and instead of making it a choice, going, look, mom, dad, I do not want to deal with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to your event.
Right.
I am happy to do something independently with you, me, and my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
We can do our own, we can go out to eat. You guys can come over. We will come over the week before, the week after, like offering up solutions. You're trying to force a behavior from your parents that you're already very clear they are not going to engage with, because you don't want to accept the responsibility. Well, that like you are also contributing to this. Like years ago, when you chose to be the forgive and forget, which you didn't forgive and you didn't forget,
right,
complacent child, you already knew the answer.
Right.
That this is your role in this family, is if you are going to be part of the collective family, there's never going to be repercussions for her behavior. And 20 some years down the road is no time to think you're going to just like snap your fingers and fix it. You're not going to fix it.
No, you're not going to fix it.
How you cope with it.
Well, but going to dinner and putting up with her is not coping with it.
No. I'm not suggesting OP go to dinner with his sister there and just deal with it.
Or let it go for the sake of the family. The sake of the family is not the family.
Yeah.
Okay.
These aren't viable options.
Toxic behavior, stopping I'm putting up with this. Going, no, I'm not coming if she's coming. That, however, I think makes them not the asshole. Finally putting up boundaries of like, nope, we don't deal with this. Yeah.
But I think the problem is you in setting he's not setting boundaries. He's not setting boundaries. He's attempting to set boundaries. He doesn't really understand what a boundary is.
Right.
My interactions with my sister are harmful to me. I am not going to interact with my sister because it is harmful to me. You can interact with my sister all you want to, however you see fit. I am going to self-select to not be at events that my sister is at.
Right.
But a boundary fails to be a boundary when you turn it into an ultimatum. If you want to see me, she can't be there.
Right.
You're now trying to control and manipulate someone else's behavior.
Right.
That's not a boundary.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying he's attempting to set a boundary. He needs the tools to actually set a boundary and work within it. And work within the concept that you don't try to control people's behavior.
Right.
That's not what a boundary is about. It's about controlling you and how you deal with situations you don't want to be a part of.
Right.
Like, because quite frankly, if like in our more normal like boundary conversation has been about things like, using condoms with in polyamorous relationships, and the nesting partner is trying to set a boundary. And then it turns into control and like, well, our agreement is you would use condoms with other sexual partners, and then you broke that.
Right.
And it's like, that's a rule.
Right. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying, I'm not coming if my sister's there.
Right. Which was the perfectly fine part of the boundary. He lost it at pick one of us.
Right.
One or the other. You can't have both. You have to choose. That's manipulating his parents' behavior. That's not a boundary anymore. You broke the boundary ethics, the framework of a boundary, when it became pick me or pick her.
Right.
One of the two, you can't have both.
Right.
No. The boundary is, I appreciate that you've already invited my sister and she's going to come to the family holiday. And I'm fine with that. You guys enjoy. I'm not going to be there.
Right. All right.
But here's what I'll offer up.
Right. But, he's trying to guilt the parents. I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm like, I see it differently.
Yeah, and Brenda goes on to say he may not know the boundary rules yet. And that's exactly the point I'm making. And it's like you become the asshole when you don't know the rules of boundaries.
Right. All right. So, poll is up on the Aeson Knight YouTube. Feel free to go over there and vote. And let's go into Psychic subreddit.
Yeah, so how do your messages come to you? Am I going crazy? And why is this happening? Hi, I was curious to hear from any psychic people that are fully aware of their abilities. Maybe you've had them since childhood or have a good sense of control over them. I'm not sure what the name is for getting random bolts of intuition that turn out to be accurate or happen shortly after I think about them. I'm in my 30s and am getting more and more aware of really random thoughts that suddenly implant themselves into my mind. Just like if you suddenly thought, oh, I need to pay the electric bill on Tuesday. 9 times out of 10, it's usually something bad or a warning that pops up in my mind then later happens. I've only recently started to pay more attention to it, but I wanted to know, for those of you that are fully aware that you are psychic and well experienced with it, is that how it happens for you? Also, where is it coming from and why? Why now? And also, why always negative warnings? I've had some rather awful ones about people concerning their health that I just have to keep to myself or else I'd sound like a Fruit Loop. Plus, it's not my place to say, hi, I think you're going to have a health emergency. Be careful traveling in your car in the coming weeks. You know, it would just sound awful and completely unsolicited. So I was curious, how do you manage this? Do I ignore it? Is it even considered psychic? As far as I'm aware, it's not coming from anything spiritual, or rather, I'm not communicating with anyone on the other side. They are just weird thoughts that happen to come true.
Well, that's clairsentient. And why is it negative first? Negative is easy. Uncontrolled negative is very easy. Okay. Uncontrolled thought process, uncontrolled vision process. You're going to get the negative first. You're going to get the bad first. This is why a lot of people, you call it, oh, he's cheating. No, he's not. Oh, he's, that's because they're running skim surface. It's like the card. You can read the top of the card. It's very easy. It's very light. It's like running to the mailbox. Going deeper than the card is much more contained. It's much more hard. It's much more difficult. That's where the work comes in to run the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Getting health messages, very common. A lot of people, a lot of newbies get like death messages, that type of thing, because again, it's easy work. It flows easier, especially when we're in this environment that we're in, that negative is much more.
Well, and not calling it unintuitive. Like, I think it's intuitive.
Yeah.
But do you think some of it is also like it's pattern recognition? Like it's early pattern recognition. Like you see the signs of someone in failing health, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even though you're not a doctor, you don't know what you're looking at, you couldn't read an X-ray if you tried. You see things that, like, you've seen this pattern before.
No.
You know someone's getting sick. You know someone's health is failing.
No. I think it's much more that sprint to the mailbox.
Okay.
It's that that electric signal is clicking the radar. Okay.
Okay.
And then it's practice. And then it's discernment. The other side is discernment. What do I say and what do I not say? Yeah, you're going to get a job, but you're going to get fired from it in 2 years, and you'll take another job, and then you get tired of that, so you start your company, or you just want to know when you're getting a job.
Or when you're starting your company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, does that... And sometimes that could be the real issue with like what is someone asking versus what are the cards like. Are the cards getting overly complicated and someone's over here like, look, I just want to know this much.
No.
Like this answers my question.
No.
That
Uh-huh.
is a whole laundry list of stuff. This much of it answers my question.
You know, Proctor says you only need to know 20 feet at a time to go from LA to New York. You only need to see the next 20 feet. And that's really stuck with me in readings and stuff, is you just need the next 20 feet.
Yeah.
Then you can make a choice about the next 20 feet.
Well, and then you also have to understand, like, what's the influences?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, like, if you sit there and let's say you're a very technically adept reader,
Mm-hmm.
and someone has asked you, like, when do I find a job?
Right.
And the ultimate answer, the short answer,
Mm-hmm.
give it a couple of weeks.
Right.
Would you necessarily benefit your client
Mm-hmm.
by telling them, like, the laid out cards basically
Mm-hmm.
get into, like, you're going to have a flat tire and then your car's going to get towed and it's going to get damaged and you're really going to struggle. You're going to have to call a friend. Like, would that, like, add stress to a situation that makes things worse? And ultimately you start throwing the client down a path.
Well, it's not only down a path, but it's like okay, you're getting a job in a couple weeks. Great. You need to take about 90 days to adjust to this job. Great. They get into the job and they hate it immediately.
But they remember, you said, give it 90 days.
90 days. They do the job for 90 days. They finally adjust the job. Great. They enjoy that. That's wonderful. Do they really need to know that they're leaving the job in 2 years? No, they don't want to know that. No. That takes their choices away if they get presented with an offer in 9 months. It's an option line. And what I mean by option line is it's like, it's a free choice point. Do you want to do that option to start doing TikToks?
Like, it doesn't drastically change your life.
Exactly. You know,
like, it's not a negative, it's not a positive, it's just an option.
Right. And it doesn't really influence anything for 2 more years.
But if someone hears you're going to be in this job for 2 years, they may totally lock out for 2 years. Like, right. No, I don't need to explore anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to do this for 2 years, so I'm going to put, like, all my focus.
Right. And that's why it's like, give the information they ask for. And sometimes that information they don't like. Like, well, you charted it. Why did I chart it? Well, because you're learning this, this, and this. You're learning the humanities path. You're also learning universal love. And you're not there yet. People don't like those answers. I get one started on that shit all the time when someone goes, well, why? Well, because you're not communicating correctly. I'm a great communicator.
Not in this instance.
Communication's a two-way street, baby. And if he's grunting and growling and you're sitting there discussing the harmonics of love and you ain't communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's take a look at the poll and see where we're at.
I feel like I'm controversial this week.
And you're controversial, all right. You're also not the asshole.
All right. Yeah, Brenda came back with, ignorance doesn't make an asshole. I see. I think there's a point you have to be aware when, like, there's an unfairness in your own behavior.
Well, but the other point to that, and the problem that I took was the family telling him, violate your boundary.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, nope, not the asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff way down the line might change. They could make a decision that changes their path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, very much so. All right, guys, we hope you've enjoyed. This has been a very long but very in-depth episode.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devin, Bella, and Maria Meyer. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yep. And we'll see you Friday at 9 p.m. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
I don't have to do that anymore.